So in this video, we are going to talk about cell signaling, how a cell basically interacts with the other cells. Now, communication between the cells that is mediated by extracellular signaling molecules. Now, this extracellular signaling molecule, it binds to a receptor, and once this binding takes place, the receptor which is present on it's embedded within the plasma membrane of target cell. This binding, it eventually leads to activation of the intracellular signaling molecules or the intracellular signaling proteins. Eventually, this in turn leads to activation of the effector proteins. Now, the effector protein, that may be either a metabolic enzyme or a transcription regulatory protein or a cytoskeleton protein. Eventually, that leads to an altered metabolism or an altered gene expression or altered cell shape or movement. So that was a brief idea about cell signaling. Now let's discuss the different types of cell signaling. The first one, contact-dependent signaling, in which both the signaling cell and the target cell, they are in close contact with one another. So that means the signaling molecule which is released by the signaling cell, it binds to the receptor on the target cell, but both of these cells, they should be in close contact with each other. And this type of signaling we see mostly in case of the immune responses. The second type, it is the paracrine signaling. So we have a signaling cell. What it does is that it releases the local mediators. So it secretes the signaling molecules in its close vicinity. And these local mediators, they bind to the receptors present on the target cells. Now this process, it happens in close proximity, not in contact, but in close proximity to the signaling cell. So that is what is called as the paracrine signaling. Now in most of the cases, the signaling cell and the target cell, both are different. But if we put it like this, for example, the signaling cell and the target cell, they are both a single cell. It's basically acting as a signaling cell as well as the target cell. So one of the best example is a cancerous cell. So cancerous cell, it produces the signals that increases their survival and proliferation. So that type of signaling is called autocrine signaling. The third type, it is the synaptic signaling. Now, in case of the synapses, when a neuron that is activated from the another, when it gets a stimulus from the another nerve cells, it sends these impulses along the axon. And when this impulse reaches the end of axon, it releases the neurotransmitters. Now, these neurotransmitters, for example, they may be acetylcholine. And these released neurotransmitters, they bind to the receptors present on the target cells. So that was the third type. And now fourth type, it is the endocrine signaling. So an endocrine cell, it produces hormones. The hormones are released into the bloodstream. Now once these hormones are present in the bloodstream, they will move with it and they will bind to the receptors that may be lying anywhere in the body. Okay, so it binds to this receptor present on the target cell, which may be far from its signaling molecule. Okay, or we can say the site of production. So these are the four different types of the cells. Now let's discuss the different types of receptors. The first one, these are the cell surface receptors. Now you see, the first case is this receptor, the cell surface receptor. Now this receptor, it is present embedded within the plasma membrane of the target cell. And mostly the molecules which bind to the receptor, these are hydrophilic signaling molecules. The second type, it is the intracellular receptors. The intracellular, as the name suggests, these are the molecules which basically they are the small molecules, they are hydrophobic signaling molecules. Now, since they are hydrophobic molecules, they are able to cross the lipid bilayer of the plasma membrane and they will go inside. Now, such type of receptors, they are present either in the cytosol or they may be present within the nucleus. So this one, it is called as, so that is called as the intracellular receptor protein. So that was an introduction about cell signaling.